So he hits it, and I go boom, squirt, rub, boom, squirt, rub.
Now, back to Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
Oh, typical Mondays. Got the boom, squirt, rub. You got no AC in the building. We got a broken microphone. Back to the work week. Here we go.
At least the heat's broken for a couple of days for those of us who partake in more inland communities.
But it's no problem, man. It's no problem. We're just hanging out. We've got a good friend in Todd Ramasar who's about to jump on here, Kevon Looney's agent. But before we talk to Todd, right now, caller 5, want to go see the California Classic. This is for tickets to July 2nd at Chase Center. 2 games. Stars up and coming for the Warriors, Kings, Lakers, and Heat. Caller 5 to the contest line right now. 844-999-GAME. 844-999-4263. Pair of tickets to the July 2nd games for the California Classic. So, again, that's 844-999-GAME. Good luck to you on each one of those coming up this weekend. And that brings us to Todd Ramasar, agent for Kevon Looney and many others across the NBA circles, a guy who's just all connected with all of those former UCLA players, and there's been such a pipeline in many ways between them and the Golden State Warriors. Todd, it's great to have you on. How you been, man?
I've been great, Mark. How's everything on your end?
Everything is great. How was the draft for you, real quick, before we get to anything else?
The draft was good. Andrew Nembhard, 31 to the Pacers, and then had one of the young 19-year-olds out of Overtime Elite signed with the San Antonio Spurs, and then I had some other undrafted prospects signed with some other teams. So it was good overall.
What's it like for the first-round players when the salaries are already slotted? Is that almost trying to find additional ways to juice up the contract for your clients?
Yeah, they're already slotted. In most cases, most people don't understand. Even with the rookie wage scale, we could still negotiate it up 120% of that figure. But for the most part, at least for me, when I'm looking at it, it's all about fit. When I think about my client, his style of play, the system he's coming from, all of his attributes, I'm trying to pair him with an organization that has a history of development and is a good organization overall, that is hopefully a playoff team with good veterans in their locker room that could help groom that prospect that I've had drafted to that organization, get settled into the NBA much quicker than if he was in, a bad situation.
Todd, now that we've got the draft in the rear view, can you share with us right now when the new contract for Kevon Looney and the Warriors will be announced?
I was hoping you would tell me, Mark. Free agency begins this week. Obviously, I'll be engaged with the Warriors in conversations about potentially a new contract with Kevon. But also, I'll be gathering or having other conversations with some other teams and suitors for Kevon to join them as well.
You mentioned things like fit and veterans to groom and other things that have really played well for your client in Kevon Looney. How much do you balance the fit that we know is in place with the Warriors with the idea of him maybe maximizing his free agent value elsewhere?
I look at it. I look at everything, and what I try to do with my clients is get as many options on the table as possible. Options would be, again, some other organizations that could potentially be a good fit. In some other cases, it may not be as good of a fit. It just comes down to that team's desire to have Kevon on their roster and what they're willing to compensate him or make an offer for a contract. And then ultimately, there's an analysis done with, in this case, with Kevon or any other client, where we make a determination, and ultimately it's the client's choice where they ultimately want to land.
So, Todd, and I promised everybody I'd ask you what may well be a stupid question, but I wonder, is it always just the highest bidder? Because when it comes to money like this, and admittedly, I've not walked in these shoes, at least not yet, darn it, Todd, but I've not walked in these shoes. But what really, if someone wants to be with a certain team, and Kevon has said he wants to be with the Warriors, What is the difference between a million or $2 million a year when you're talking about a 25 or a 30 or $35 million contract?
Yeah, it's not for me. It's advising the clients. It's not necessarily all about just the highest bidder. There does get a point where it just makes business sense, and there's some other things that go into the analysis as far as like where is the client in terms of their career, right? Are they early in their career, or are they at the tail end of their career? Also, I'm a firm believer that. Every contract that's accepted, once that client goes into that situation, his next contract's being negotiated as well. So if we end up just chasing the dollar and putting the client in a bad situation, and they're no longer in the playoffs, or they're no longer winning, or they don't have, say, just a good staff to take care of that client, then ultimately you could be setting up that client for failure in their next contract, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So, but as part of that analysis too, I tell my clients, look, at the end of the day, when teams are making these offers and we're negotiating them, it gets to a point where you have to do what's best for the client and their family in terms of business sense. And then also you got to look at, sometimes where those teams are playing. Are they playing in a non-tax state? Are they playing in, in Tennessee or in Florida or Texas? And that goes into the analysis, because what may seem like a few $1 million could actually be significantly more, just based on the fact that they're not getting taxed in that state over half the season.
Yeah, good old California. And another cold reminder, Todd, that we pay the most taxes here in the union. How do you go about selling Kevon Looney? Because the numbers aren't eye-popping, but those of us who watch him night in and night out appreciate the screen setting, the defensive IQ, the headiness, the great team, the teammate aspect of it. How do you go about selling that to people outside of Golden State?
Yeah, I talk about the fact that he's been to 5 finals, and he's only 26 years old. He's won 3 rings. He's got a great pedigree. Guys, when you look, and the fact that he played 104 games this season, the other thing you look at is Kevon is all about winning, whether he started or
came off the bench.
Did we lose Todd? Okay.
We'll reconnect with Todd Ramasar.
Let's get Todd back, because there are more questions to be asked.
When he was lauding
sure.
Kevon Looney,
yes.
and he's right about whether he's starting or coming off the bench. Todd, you were saying about Kevon being able to start or come off the bench?
Yeah, he's a winner, and he's willing to do whatever it is to help his team win games, and that's even included, playing through injury. But, when you look across the league, even in the finals, when you're looking at, the Warriors versus the Celtics, and you look at the young roster of players on the Celtics, and they're extremely talented, there's a value and a premium put on veterans that have, as I call it, have been to the promised land of winning a championship. And, LeBron, as great as he was in Cleveland the first time around, he went to Miami and learned how to win. Kevin Durant in OKC went to Golden State to learn how to win a championship. And even with my client Pascal Siakam in Toronto, once Kawhi Leonard joined that roster, it was different. He showed those guys how to win at a high level. And that's ultimately when you're seeing Kevon, in addition to what he could bring from a skill standpoint, rebounding, defense, and even some other things that I think a lot of teams in the NBA haven't seen probably since college or high school from Kevon. In terms of what he could add offensively, you're looking at a player that knows how to win at the highest level and be a leader in that locker room and on the floor to help a team get over the top.
You're listening to NBA agent Todd Ramasar, Kevon Looney among his clients, Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Todd, a couple of times you've mentioned what makes business sense. I wonder if you can somehow put a value on this, or at least put it into words. What is the value to Kevon of the Warrior franchise, having only worn that jersey and being surrounded by those players where he knows he succeeds? What is the business sense of that conversation?
I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, the fact that he was drafted there, he's played a significant role. He's won a championship, as I mentioned earlier. 5 finals appearances, 3 rings. It's pretty obvious. I think it's now on the Warriors and ownership to obviously make an offer to Kevon that's a fair market value to have him return to a team where I think he's appreciated and valued from, Steve Kerr and the coaching staff, as well as Kevon's peers, whether it be the older veterans and Steph and Draymond, as well as some of the younger guys that have joined that roster or new additions like, Andrew Wiggins or even Jordan Poole. So the value that we add to that, or how Kevon looks at the Warriors as an organization, is at the highest level. That's obvious. Now, again, as you mentioned, Mark, it's all about business now, and ultimately what decision has to be made.
And part of the business is you creating some leverage for your client through other offers. So when you're out there looking for comps for Kevon Looney, is that challenging to find another player out there who does for his team what Kevon does for the Warriors?
No. When you look at the advanced analytics, you could see players that stick out, or there's precedence there. But, I guess where you could say, and it's a great question, is how do you quantify the value of 5 finals appearances and 3 rings, right? And some people could argue the other way and say, well, he's playing with, some of the best players that have ever been assembled with Steph and Clay and Draymond and the rest of their talent, as well as coaching staff. But how I look at it too, guys, there's something I looked at as it relates to Kevon is, if you look back at the history of dynasties throughout the league, Kevon was drafted in 2015 after the Warriors had won their first championship and had their core established. It's very rare to find players that have been drafted to a franchise that is already in their dynasty that have contributed at a high level that people remember. That's partly because an organization's resources are going to be focused on that core group of players. In this case, it would have been Steph, Draymond, and Clay. But for Kevon to come in there as a young 19-year-old to, not only be a power forward, but switch to the center position and really find the groove and play a role there that Steve and the rest of the staff wanted him to play and find success, that's telling, right? So that is where, the rest of the NBA and teams that are making a playoff run or have a good veteran team that need a center are finding value in Kevon in terms of what he could bring to their franchise.
Todd, I know this equals a sum total of $0 for you, but we on this show have dubbed Kevon as priority one for the Warriors this offseason. Can you help me with the rules? I know free agency hasn't started yet, but because he's a Warriors free agent, are you guys allowed to talk to the Warriors yet or not yet?
There's always conversations, but in terms of getting down to the details, those conversations have not happened.
Okay, but has there been some sort of contact with regard to, at least as we're sort of talking about conceptually, or a showing of love, anything like that to this point?
I'll just say this, Mark. There's obviously an expression in it's been expressed from Steve Kerr and the staff in the front office that they'd love to see Kevon back.
So they didn't say make an offer halfway through the parade.
If that were the case, I'd be saying that Kevon is back with the Warriors.
I mean, the euphoria. That would have been a good time to hit Joe Lacob. Hey, Joe, while we're all here celebrating, how about 18 a year?
Hey, guys, it might have been the best time. There was a lot of champagne flowing, guys.
Exactly.
Yeah, by the way, I don't know why today. Were you on Kevon's bus? Were you there?
I was.
Oh, I missed you.
Kevon.
Oh, I had a feeling you'd be there, and we missed you somehow. But you had a good time, it sounds like.
Yeah, you know what? This is my 5th ring in 8 years between 3 clients, 3 teams, and everyone is unique and different. This one was special for Kevon because of his contribution to it, and obviously the 104 games. But yeah, it was special. I had a good time there supporting Kevon.
And the 500,000 fans chanting his name, or at least the first half of his name, that has to resonate with him come contract time.
Oh, no question. No question. I think anytime a guy hears MVP chants or his name being chanted, you got to feel good about that.
Yeah, and an agent doesn't mind it either, does he?
Right.
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
Not even a little bit. Yeah. I definitely appreciate those.
Todd, great to talk to you, man. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks, Todd.
No, I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Okay, there he goes. Todd Ramasar, the agent for Kevon Looney.